Produced by Victoire. Victoire gives a special thanks to the EWF, Empire Wrestling Federation, and Mr. Jesse Hernandez, as well as SoCal Wrestling TV. Find the app on Roku. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Stylin, the podcast. I am your co-host, Amir, and as you can see on the left of your screen, my other co-host, inconspicuous by his absence, he went out riding today, but he should be here shortly. But nonetheless, our guest today, our special guest, the Iron Man, Rob Conway, joins us on There he is. Look at him in all of his style right there. Rob, you're prepared for styling.
Stylin is my middle name too.
Yep, as we can tell. Always looking sharp, Rob. And I think we can see Rico right there. He's riding in. Can you see him, Rob?
No, I can't see him yet.
Not yet. Not yet. He's coming into the shot. I think it hasn't picked him up yet, but I do. Rico. Okay. Can you hear us, Rico?
Oh, my goodness.
Always the one to make the grand entrance, Rob. Rico.
Is that Cowboy Rico?
That's Cowboy Constantino. Cowboy Stylin. The Ponderosa. That's the reason for Ponderosa. And I'm not in one of my favorite races. So that's the best thing.
Rico, bring it in a little bit closer. We can't hear you very well. I think I heard you say Ponderosa there, that you're in the Ponderosa today. Okay, Rico, set it up. I think we're having a little bit of technical difficulties there, Rob. Obviously, we couldn't hear you very well there, Rico, but I'm sure when you get closer to your audio, we'll be able to hear you. Always a character, Rob. This is what I have to deal with on a weekly basis. He's either there, he's in Paris last week, he was in Europe. He's all over the place, this guy. I don't know, man. I don't know. But while Rico's getting ready to join us here, a couple of announcements. Going across your screen right now are the brand new Stylin the Podcast t-shirts. They are available for order. Make sure you order yours today by using the email address in the description of this video. And now, fans, we are joined by Rico. Rico, oh. He's got a real gunslinger, huh?
Is he selling cowboy hats too?
Yeah, I think he's selling belt. I think we'll sell cowboy hats soon. There he is. Rico.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sure can.
Okay. Oh, hey Rob. Good to see you. That's Rico's Rose. That's she's half Appaloosa, half Mustang, and that's the one I'm going to train for the cowboy mounted shooting. I'm going to get into that competition now.
So American Gladiators champion, Power Team, police officer, OVW champion, WWE champion, and now rodeo champion.
It's you shoot 6 guns off a horse, the 45 calibers, and you shoot balloons in a certain pattern, and you can win world titles. So I'm going down west. But I
nobody likes championship belts more than Rico.
That's true. That's true, Rob.
Well, I'll tell you what, this ride I just got off of, man, I need to get a drink. I mean, I gotta run some trail dust off my.
Well, yeah, you gotta keep hydrated, Rico. I mean, you know, you're out there.
So we're just gonna.
Wait a minute, Rico. Whoa.
Wait.
Rico, this is a family show.
Shoot, drink and shoot.
Yeah.
Wait, I need one more. A little bit of trail dust.
Is that even legal to drink and ride a horse?
I don't think so, Rob.
Well,
Rico.
Hold on. One more.
Oh, man. Rico.
The Rico I knew was a fitness fanatic.
Yeah, yeah. I
What's
knew the
wrong?
same.
This is actually good for me, guys. This is
Rico,
actually good for me.
Rico, alcohol is not good for you, Rico.
So The Rock has his own tequila, and now Rico, what is it he's got?
What is this,
Hey,
Rico?
100% pure
Uh,
apple cider vinegar.
okay.
I told you it's good for me. Helps me burn fat.
Wow.
Now
Okay. There
I
you go.
need to take another shot right there. That
Okay.
trail dust, I tell you, that trail dust is.
So what you're saying is we could drink it. I've been heard that we have to take water in the apple cider vinegar. You're saying you can just drink it straight?
You're talking to the stylist. I drink it
Uh,
straight.
yeah, I suppose there's no other way to go.
No way to go.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, before we begin, you know what else would look good for us, Rico?
You just lay the smack down on that subscribe button, and while you're at it, hit the like.
Yep. Hit
What's
the
not to
like.
like about us? And the Iron Man, the legend, right there,
Rob Conway.
right
It's
there.
Here
good
he
to see
is.
you.
Man, Grob and I go years back.
Yep. And it's been fans. It's been over 20 years since the two of them have seen each other. So this is a
Yeah,
big reunion for the two right here. So to kick it off, then I guess let's just start. Rob, Rico, ask Rob. What have you been doing for recent years, Rob?
there it is. What you been doing, Iron Man?
Man, I still live in New Albany, where I always lived back when you were here. I'm kind of a creature of
Yeah.
habit. I like to go to the same gym and eat the same foods and stuff like that. I still travel around wrestling and doing appearances, but not as much as I used to, that's for sure. I'm
Wow.
a little bit choosier on where I wrestle and what ring I get into. You know how it is back in the day. We wrestle any place that they wanted us to go, we would do it and we'd be happy to do it. But after a few years of that, your body says, hey, pick and choose where you drive, where you fly, and who you get in the ring with.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. Especially when you get older,
Well,
because that
well,
ring is not as forgiving, and getting in there with amateurs, it hurts.
yep, and
Yeah.
it certainly does. Rob, did you see that Rico was on AEW a few weeks back?
Yes, it's like as soon as he was on there, it popped up on every social media or website that has to do with wrestling. There was Rico.
Yep.
And he should be on every week somewhere. He's
Yeah.
entertaining. He always has been.
Yep.
Uh, Very underrated for his entertainment value.
Yeah,
Well,
for
thank
sure.
you, Iron Man.
Yeah,
Well,
for
here, do you know when I got to OVW? Besides Danny's four guys,
Mhm.
Rob was my first angle for the heavyweight title.
It was your first angle?
First angle.
Wow.
I think I
Yep.
had him in like match 7 or 9, something like that.
Yeah.
You'd think he'd been wrestling for a long time, but he got into the business, hadn't had that many matches. He just was really good right off.
Yeah. Yeah, he's very dedicated. It's one of the things we talk about a lot is dedication and focus, commitment. But then again, Rob, you're the same way. I mean, look, again, 20 something years has gone by, but Rob still looks the same again. It looks like not but a week or two has gone by. You're
Well, I
still
appreciate that.
yeah.
I think Rico's like myself, as he got into wrestling because of the athleticism.
Hmm.
A lot of people want to be like rock stars and they can't. So back in the day, the next best thing for them was to travel around in wrestling because, now it's a little different, but it was pretty wild back when we got into it. We're still the Wild West a little bit. But me and him were the kind of guys that, you know, trained, got up early. I mean, we were just dedicated to, if we were still going to train and work out, it just wrestling was the perfect outlet for those things.
Hmm. Would you say that's the same for you, Rico?
I did owe him. Yeah. I didn't get into it for the stardom and all that. It was athletic and you could entertain, which I love to do, as you can tell.
Hmm.
And like I said, and after 8 months and 12 matches, they signed me to developmental. And Cornette went down there in July of '99, and that's when I arrived. I was the first developmental.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And Jimmy introduced me to Danny's core guys, and Rob, Nick Dinsmore, Flash, Damager, Basham, Rip Rogers, Danny himself. So I never got put. Did I forget anybody, Rob?
Did he forget anybody, Rob?
No, I mean that was the core group that we were there before it was a developmental territory. So like we knew the way Danny had trained us is how he wanted people to train. So Danny didn't really get in the ring that much. Most of the training consisted of Danny saying, Rob, Nick, get in the ring with Rico, get in the ring with Brock, get in the ring. So we got a lot of ring time, and Danny had the faith that we would do the things that he would have done.
Yeah.
And that's a good situation. It's kind of can be bad too, because those guys go on to become stars. Um, we kind of help train them, which is good, but it also sometimes you're not super nice when you're in the ring training people.
Hmm.
You have to, so some people take that like, hey, because that's the way we were trained.
Yeah.
You know, it's not that you're mean, but you have to be when someone does something wrong, we're having to correct them. And some people could get bitter at that later on, even though it wasn't, we didn't want to do that.
Right.
It's just Danny didn't get in the ring.
Yeah.
So so we were put in positions sometimes where some people could take the critiquing as who is these guys? They're not big time.
Hmm.
But Rico wasn't like that. He was a sponge from the get-go.
Yeah.
And his athletic ability, I had good time wrestling. He could do everything. I
Yeah.
mean, flips, front flips, back flips, all these athletic moves, and I could take them all
Yeah.
because I don't do that kind of stuff, but I can take it. So I would take athletic guys like Rico and help them put those moves in the match to
Hmm.
where I thought it made sense. And when we would
Hmm.
go over something, I would tell him, hey, here's why we're doing this.
Right.
And then later on, he might he might find a better way to do it, but that's the way I was trained, and then I would relay that on.
Quick question, because I heard this over the weekend. I was working in our promotion out here, EWF, under Jesse Hernandez,
So
and our booker. And the booker was telling me, oftentimes when you get in wrestling, the age you get in wrestling is the age you stop maturing. So now with Rico, obviously Rico, you were in your late 30s at this time. So you
38 and a
were,
half.
yeah, you were already very mature at that time. Did you find him more teachable and easier to teach, Rob, than some of the younger guys?
yeah, because he had an urgency of wanting to get to the Raw or SmackDown.
Hmm.
Some people, when you get into developmental and you're young, um, they're getting paid pretty decent money compared
Hmm.
to what they've ever made.
Right.
And, you're around a bunch of guys that are all similar ages. It's kind of like going to college and getting to party and
Hmm.
getting to be in a fraternity of guys.
Yeah.
Rico was a little older and he was like, hey, I don't have a long time
Hmm.
to mess around before I get to making big money. He had
Yeah.
already had careers. He had to take a pay cut
Yeah.
to come to, so it was a sacrifice for him. And he wanted to get to the big time as fast as possible. And the way to do that is to leave no stone unturned.
Hmm.
That's work harder than other people, study harder than other people. Uh, just all the homework that needs to be done. Where some people that didn't make it, they just looked at it like, man, I they hadn't been in the business very long, and all of a sudden they're getting paid just to go train, hang out with the guys,
Yeah.
and they didn't. I'm not saying they didn't take it serious, but when they got released, they probably looked back and said, "Man, I should have done this, I should have done that." And
Yeah.
Rico, much like myself, I think was not like that. When I, if I had got not made it, so to speak, I would have looked back and said, "I did every possible thing I could do."
Yeah. Yeah.
To give myself the best opportunity with what athletic ability and genetics I have. I
Hmm.
put all the work and time and effort into it, invested in myself. And if I hadn't have made it, then I would have said, at least I feel good that I did everything I could do.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
look in the mirror and be satisfied. Win, lose, because you gave it everything. You held nothing back.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Well,
I,
and I've said this before, and I've told you this before, Rob. Uh, when you said making the moves and putting them where they made sense and stuff like that, Nick, I remember Nick one day, I don't know if he was testing me or something. He goes, okay, Rico, what do you want to do in a match? And I was like, me? He goes, yeah, put a match together. And I said, well, okay, we'll start out like this, and then I'll do this, and you do that, and I'll do this. And 5 minutes later, he goes, Rico. I said, yeah. He goes, you don't have to get all your
Yeah.
shit in.
Every match, you don't have to do everything you can do.
Right.
Sometimes it
But
just doesn't fit.
Yeah.
yeah, but to me, that rang a bell. And it was a teaching moment Nick gave me.
Mhm.
And I went, I get it now. I
So,
get it now.
so I don't know if you feel this way, but I've thought a lot about the guys that we wrestled with and started with and that made it to the big time. I mean, there's different levels of big time, but when you have an action figure and you're in video games and you're in WrestleManias, that's the big time.
Mhm.
That's making it. Rico, in my opinion, the light bulb came on for him and he really excelled when he got injured and turned heel.
Okay.
When he turned heel in OVW,
Mhm.
that's when he figured out you don't have to do everything that you're really trying to get a reaction by doing not the minimum, but you don't want to do too much. And when he became a heel, his psychology got better and
Mhm.
it made him a better baby face. You really sometimes when you first start and you're a baby face, you think when they're getting heat on you, it's like their time to make you look weak.
Mhm.
When really a good heel is setting you up to get more of a reaction for every offensive move that you do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. You
Yep.
got to play off each other. That's what it's all about. Good guy, bad guy. And I think somewhere I've seen that before where some guys try and steal too much. They hog it on the other side. They're not realizing that, hey, your job as that heel is to make that baby face look like gold, look like a champion that people
When
can
the
rally
time
behind.
comes,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can't come back if you were up by 25 at halftime.
Hmm. Yeah.
You, if you're not down, you can't come back.
Right.
Right.
Right, right. Rob, you mentioned there Brock Lesnar. So I'm curious. I mean, you're talking about Brock Lesnar, a beast. I mean, a total beast. And he was a lot younger. Yeah, he would have been a lot younger than both of you back then. So what was he like to deal with, to manage?
Well, he had all the talent in the world,
Mhm.
and he was much like Rico. He came from a background where his family wasn't well off.
Mhm.
So he had a, his work ethic is unmatched. Him and John Cena were two of the hardest working guys.
Okay.
You'll find the more successful people are, sometimes the harder workers they are.
Mhm.
And he was a no nonsense guy that wanted to learn as fast as he could. And because they paid him so much in the developmental, he knew he needed to progress quickly because they needed a return on their investment quickly.
Yeah.
And the developmental system was so new when Rico got into it that you didn't know how long they were going to develop you before they were going to either use you or let you go.
Right. Yeah.
Now the average is like 3 years in developmental. I mean, back then we didn't know if it was going to be 6 weeks,
Hmm.
3 months.
Yeah.
So you just really put your nose down at practice. And there were times where the practice had to end because the mat got so sweaty that we couldn't run and jump in it anymore
Gosh.
in
Yeah.
like 2 hours.
But that's the type of intensity that breeds great competitors, great talents. Rico and I talk about this all the time. The difference of, and again, audience, I don't mean to bash anybody or slam anybody, every pun intended, but the industry has changed, right? It has changed. And there are a lot of guys that are still passionate, like the two of you were, like your generation was. But then again, there are a lot of them now that I don't know. But hey, I'm going to leave it at that. That's just my
Well, the
personal
problem is
opinion.
a lot of the guys now that have all the passion in the world for wrestling,
Mhm.
they don't have the size, they don't have the look, they don't go to the gym. They love wrestling, but they don't love all the things that come with, uh, all the things you have to do when you're not in the ring to
Right.
be successful.
Right.
And I mean, you can take a guy that looks like $1 million that comes from an athletic background and teach him how to wrestle. And what happens is if they're an athlete, they fall in love with wrestling later on.
Mm-hmm.
Might not have grew up watching it because they dedicate all their life to playing football or to martial arts, but then they get into it and then they see it's more complicated and than they thought,
Mm.
and then that their love grows. I love wrestling more now than I did before I got into it.
That's interesting.
I mean, I thought, hey, people used to ask me if I was a professional wrestler because I look like one. And
Yeah.
I was like, no, but I mean, I watch it on TV. You know, it wasn't until I started doing it that I decided, man, first of all, it was way harder than I thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I fell in love with it. And you have to love it, especially in the independent world, because you're not making any money when you start, you're losing money.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, people play softball and bowling and stuff and don't make money and they still love it. But this is, you know, we did it when I did it. I didn't have a contract at the beginning. I had
Okay.
about 500 matches before I ever made a penny.
Wow.
You
Okay.
know, because in OVW we had lots of matches. I
Mm-hmm.
had 167 matches my first year, and I worked full time and worked out. So
Yeah.
I think that it's like I said, nowadays it's easier to find a great athlete and have his passion change from football or some other sport, but he has the tools. You have to work really hard to become a college athlete. You
Mm-hmm.
just
Yeah.
take that same focus and turn it into wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that group that we had at the beginning of OVW, it was just they took some of the greatest athletes you could find and brought them all together, and it was just a special time for wrestling. And some of them are still on television at the top today.
Yeah. Randy Orton. Yep. He's still
Yeah.
there today. Yeah, still doing well. Rico, what are some of your memories of OVW with Rob?
Oh, like I said, he is my first angle, and I remember we had the coal miners glove match, and Rob, I was so nervous, Louisville Gardens, and
Oh,
he was managed by Kenny Bowling Services, and I remember him calming me down during the match. I
Yeah.
was just shaky, and the last part of it was funny because we both got double down, and Kenny Bowling was climbing the the ropes to get the coal miner's glove, and he was about 300 pounds then. And I was supposed to nip up, and I'm getting ready to nip, and Rob's lady goes, "Not yet, not yet, no." And
Yeah.
the beep, I popped up, and the crowd popped, and then
Yeah.
I just shook my head at Kenny Bolin, and that's the biggest bump Bolin ever did. Is
Yeah.
that cornet said, "The Earth, the crater moved." You know, the axis shifted on the Earth when Kenny hit that. Then I climbed the pole, grabbed the glove.
Yeah.
Iron Man comes up, takes the hit, and puts me over 1, 2, 3.
Wow.
But just locker room talk, you know. And my dad taught me early when you're learning something, there's a reason why God gave you 2 ears and one mouth. So you listen twice as much as you talk.
Mhm.
And all of Danny's guys had the knowledge.
Mhm.
And that's what I just kept trying to soak in daily. You know, I even went to Nick's classes when he taught the local people, just so I could be around Nick and listen to him again. Because
Mhm.
I'm more of a visual learner,
Yeah.
you know, uh, due to the ADHD and stuff like that. So that's why I excelled in martial arts. The instructors show it, I do it.
Mhm.
They showed me, I did it. If I did it wrong, they tune me up here, tune me up there. Okay, okay. My psychology wasn't right. I knew they were all trying to help me. I never at once at OVW felt threatened or they were trying to see to my demise.
Mhm.
Not once.
Mhm.
I've always felt that they were on my side. They liked wrestling me. I love wrestling them,
Mhm. Mhm.
heel and face.
Yeah.
Because we switched, didn't we?
You guys
Did we do
switch,
the switch?
Rob? He was saying, did you guys do a switch or turn from face to heel?
yeah, because at one time I was in bowling services off and on like 4 times. And some of my memories of wrestling with Rico when he turned heel with Prototype, they were managed by Bolin. And
Yeah.
I would team up with Dinsmore a lot and sometimes Damage. But Um, yeah, it's so much fun to in the developmental, you're experimenting with at live events with what could get over. Like I used to do something, I would wear my sunglasses in the matches.
Okay.
And at some
Hmm.
point, I would get hip tossed or something, and they would fall off. And then I'd roll out of the ring, and then my opponent would have my glasses. Later on, it unintentionally, but Rico would do the same thing with his comb,
Okay.
Yep.
and we would milk it to where I would have his comb, and then he would want it back, and then I would act like I was going to put it down in my trunks, and he would be no, and then
Yeah.
I maybe I was going to comb the referee's hair, which would he'd be like no, and then I would put it on the ground, and he would crawl
Yeah.
on his hands, and
Yeah.
then maybe I'd stomp his fingers or something, and it just
Yeah.
the he would use the comb, and he'd make such a big deal out of it that now the fans think this 50-cent comb is so important to him, and they pop huge for
Yeah.
just threatening
Yeah.
to do something with it. What you'll find in wrestling is if somebody has something, whether you're getting heat or you have a gimmick,
Mhm.
the threat of doing something to it is always um, more alluring and gets more of a reaction than actually doing it.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Because once
Kind
you've
of
done it,
like
you've
if
done
you're
it.
like when you're stalking someone in a horror movie, you're in suspenseful, but once they get them, it's over.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Yeah, I think I don't know if it was you, Rico, or someone told me that recently about just motion. It was you, Rico. Just
Yeah.
motion towards somebody. Just let them think and then stop. Don't do it. The
Yeah.
suspense, like you were saying. So, and essentially, is what you're saying also, Rob, though, is going back to what it takes to be a pro wrestler, is you've got to have a knack for the sorry, getting tongue tied for the theatrics. You have to have a knack for the theatrics, much like you,
Absolutely.
well, much like you, Rob. You know, the two. I mean, when you were doing La Resistance, um, even the Con Man. I mean, that was. I was just watching some of your clips actually the other day. I guess there was one when you, Sylvain, and Renee were walking backstage, and Fifi, the dog, was there. And Steve Austin came up to you guys, and he got in Renee's face. And I was just thinking, man, I mean, that was a classic. Now, Rico, were you there on Raw when La Resistance was wrestling, or were you on
I
SmackDown?
ended up I ended up there, but I started SmackDown with Billy and Chuck.
Right.
But then when I was the Adrian Street homage, I went back to SmackDown and I wrestled Rob and then I wrestled Renee.
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah, we had a
we
really it was a big deal. I wrestled Rico, and he had Jackie
Yeah.
with him, and she pulled her top down live on TV.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
yeah.
and
And then
Yeah.
he turned into a spin kick.
yes,
And then the
but
next
we had to
group,
rehearse that over and over because they had to get the right angle to where the camera didn't actually see all of her
Right.
and us get kicked off the air.
Right. I was
yeah,
gonna say that's why I was shocked. I was like, wasn't it PG at that time? No, yeah, yeah. It was Ruthless Aggression was kind of PG
yeah.
at that time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
and depends what if you went past the 8 o'clock hour or before if you went 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, the show got a little dicier the
Yeah.
later it went.
Yeah.
And then the next week, I wrestled Renee. And instead of Jackie doing that, Stacy Keebler came and she lifted her skirt and mooned him. He looked, turned around into a spin kick. And what they were getting ready for is Jackie and Stacy were going to go to WrestleMania and
Got it.
take on two other divas. I
Yeah.
guess the evening gown, wasn't it, Rob? At 20?
man, they did so many things like that that it was hard to keep up with what they had the ladies doing back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
It
was
was
great.
different. Ladies, our ladies then are different than the ladies now.
Yeah, vastly different because now the female competitors, they're competing like the guys now. It's not the divas anymore. It's just the women's division of WWE. It's far different. Rob, what are your thoughts on the current women's division? What you see maybe on the independent circuit?
There's a much more actual. in-ring wrestling now than there ever was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it used to be mainly valets and managers, and now it's kind of rare for uh, there to be a valet or manager that's female that's trying to make it to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there might be some, and they have their place on the events and on the shows, and they're entertaining. But if you want to get to the next level, you have to be able to wrestle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I don't think that they'll take an independent female a lot of times and bring her up to the main roster as a manager or or something like that, because they could, if they're going to do that, they'll get someone who already has a big following that's already famous in some other genre, and then bring them into the WWE and have an instant fan base.
Mm-hmm.
And to manage or valet takes less time and training than it does to go out and have a one-on-one match live in front of thousands of people.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd have to agree with you on that one. Rob, question for you. So, what do you think was some of your better traits as a pro wrestler and some of the things that you really had to work hard on? Compare the two.
Um, I believe that, and Rico can, you know, I'd like to hear his opinion on this. I believe that I was a great professional wrestler. I believe that I was an okay sports entertainer because in OVW we had heels and baby faces.
Mhm.
It was more traditional. I had one purpose as a heel, and that was to get booed. To get not just to get booed. I wanted them to cheer for my baby face.
Mhm.
If I couldn't get them to chant his name, then I would get them to boo me
Mhm.
because that's pretty easy.
Mhm.
It's easy to get disliked, but can I get them to chant this guy's name?
Mhm.
So the more hated I was, the better. We didn't sell merchandise. We didn't try to sell merchandise.
Mhm.
We wanted to walk out and have people say, I don't care who comes out next. I want to see this guy get his head knocked off.
Got it.
In WWE, you're both stars and you both want to be
Mhm.
marketed,
Mhm.
and the whether you're heel or face, you want to sell t-shirts and stuff like that. We were taught to be way more traditional.
Mhm.
And we couldn't even go to the same nightclub. If I went out on a Saturday night and I was a heel and there was a baby face, it could be a place that had hundreds of people there. And we found that someone found out we were in the same building, we would get in a lot of trouble.
Right. Yeah. That was.
So,
Yeah. That,
so
that's the way they started out.
sports entertainment for me, I loved it. But if I look back at should I have put more emphasis, it would be in the making a connection with the audience when I wasn't wrestling.
Mm. Okay.
Whether it be an interview or a backstage vignette. We didn't really do backstage vignettes. We didn't have the budget to have people bump into each other backstage. OVW's backstage was a hallway
All right. Okay. Yeah.
in a
What about
warehouse that got
outside
condemned.
Jeffersonville? Yeah, it was outside that little building. It was a desolate.
We
Looked
didn't
like
have a bathroom other than where the fans went. So
yeah,
you would see Mark Henry in his gear at Dairy Queen right down the street going there to use the restroom.
That must have been difficult to stay in character around the fans watching at that time. Yeah, but hey, I guess it was a good way to learn, right?
I mean,
So,
I don't know anything else. Would I wish it on new generation? Probably not, but it worked for us, and I think all of us look back on it as it's where we have gotten.
mhm.
We don't know if we'd have got there if we weren't trained the way we were.
Mm-hmm. So Rico, so Rob had posed you a question. He'd said, what do you think? He would like your opinion on what he just said, his strengths and weaknesses were.
well, when I got the, I said it was July of '99, and his sunglass. I thought he was entertaining for a heel, but you don't want to be too entertaining because you're going to get liked. That's what because the Adrian Street homage was supposed to be a straight heel, and I kept doing the horsey ride, pinching the cheeks, smacking the butt, kissing the cheek. It got, and then they turned me face. The audience turned me into a face. You know, that's why I had to leave Raw and go back to SmackDown.
Hmm.
But Rob, I thought he connected with the audience. And when I wrestled him, I mean, he got them to shout my name.
Hmm.
I mean, the whole place. Jeffersonville was just small, and it was packed.
Hmm.
You know, and even in the Louisville Gardens.
Hmm.
You know, and he's great as a wrestler because those are the people I learned from.
Yeah.
Besides Jesse, but I only had 8 months with Jesse, and
Hmm.
I couldn't go every day. It was maybe once a week, once
Right.
every other week, because I lived in Vegas and School of Hard Knocks is in San Bernardino. You
Yeah.
work all day, you drive 3.5 hours, work out for 3.5 hours, drive 3.5 hours back, and then get up and go to work again
Yeah.
to your shoot job.
Yeah.
You know, at least when I got developmental, I mean, that was, I was just getting learning every day. We had training every day.
Yeah.
And if I just learned one thing, but I thought Rob was, when he did the Iron Man, when he was with Bowen Services, I thought he did fine.
Hmm.
He did just the right amount to make him arrogant, to just
Hmm.
piss the fans off just a little over the edge.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he'd come out and pose and just how he acted. He strutted. It was like a rooster out there. When he came out, when his introduction, you knew he knew what he was doing in his introduction.
Yeah.
Because we had in Jeffersonville, we had the camera off audience. So we'd come in the ring, they'd be on two sides, one, two, yeah, two sides, and the camera would be opposite the face corner, and
Yeah.
we'd have to come in the ring, look at the audience, and then turn our back on the audience,
Yeah.
and then face the camera
Yeah.
to get introduced for television.
Yeah.
But we all made it work. And
Yeah.
then that was your moment right there to get yourself over heel or face
Yeah.
on your introduction.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so, so,
So
so, Rob, were you hesitant on the mic, or was it just something that just didn't come naturally to you?
No, I felt like the mic actually did come natural to me in a pro wrestling setting.
Right.
Uh, but in what happened was, I would say when I was in WWE, in OVW, I was a top guy from day one.
Hmm.
Like I was started out in the main event. So I'm from here. I know what these people respond to uh, in this area,
Yeah.
and but traveling around the world, it wasn't that I didn't know what they responded to.
Hmm.
What I would say is that if I had a match and a backstage promo,
Hmm.
I was and they'd say, "Hey, you have to go backstage at 3 o'clock." I would be at the ring until 2:59 because I liked the in-ring stuff so much that sometimes when I had to do a promo, I would be like, "Oh man, I got to go cut this promo,"
Right.
instead of being, "Hey, if in hindsight." As you learn, because we even on television, we hadn't been doing it that long yet.
Right.
Even in the WWE, we weren't 20-year veterans.
Right.
Um, what you find out now is every second that you get to do a backstage promo or a, a vignette, you're getting to get your personality over.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. If you go to like a little league game and you've got a nephew playing, you'll walk by all these fields of kids playing and you don't care about any of them. You just walk by. When you go to watch your relative, you care about every move they make. They
Yeah.
could be they could not even be where the ball is. But because you care about them, you care about what they're doing.
Yeah.
So if you can connect with the audience through your backstage stuff,
Hmm.
it really doesn't matter what you do in the ring. You don't
Right.
have to do a move to hope people like it. They're going to
Hmm.
like whatever you do
Hmm. Yeah. That
because they
makes sense.
like you. So it's almost like an opening act. They come out in a band, they have to destroy it because the people didn't come to see them. But
Hmm.
when the main act comes out, they've got to know them, they like them. They could miss half the words. They can, they're be out of tune, doesn't matter. You already like them. You're
Yeah.
paying to see what they don't have to come out with new songs. You're
Hmm.
paying to see what you've been seeing them do on television. They would actually be disappointed if you came out and did all new stuff. They'd be like,
Yeah.
that's not what we paid to see.
Right.
So if you get people to care about you, then the in-ring stuff is much easier.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that makes sense. To clarify, yeah, what you meant about connecting
I
with the fans. Yeah.
I agree with that because I started getting hated worse as the stylist with Billy and Chuck the more promos I did. Because then they saw how arrogant I was, just like Rob was when he did, because he did promos all the time in OVW,
Yeah.
with Bowling Services,
Yeah.
and that's why what he's saying was right on the developmental level, intermediate level, and the big level, the main
Yeah.
stage.
Yeah.
That's how you connect with them.
Yeah.
And when I started getting the mic, and when we did when Chuck proposed to Billy, and then we backed it up after the wedding. Oh man! And
Yeah.
they found out it was a publicity stunt.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
did me bigger,
Yeah. Now,
which is what
Rob.
I wanted.
Yeah. Now, Rob, I got to ask you. So, what did you think of Rico when he was doing that with Billy and Chuck? How did you like him in that role?
Well, you got to understand that we are going to like anything that our guys do.
Yeah.
We, we when someone would get called up, even just do a dark match, all of us were happy for them. We were all competing, but not against each other.
Mhm.
We were happy for that because now when this person gets on television, there's another spot like, hey, we're everybody's doing their job. If he goes up and does great, then they're going to say, hey, OVW's producing stars. Let's bring another guy up.
Yeah.
So I Rico to me is an entertainer. He was when he got to OVW, he was a great athlete. He could do all the flips and moves and stuff like that. And he was over in
Mhm.
OVW, but he wasn't as over as he once he got comfortable with and figured out what he was and what he was going to do, then the moves were irrelevant.
Mhm. Mhm.
It was his character that he got over. You know,
Yeah.
if 1,000 people would have been given the same gimmick that he had, he's probably the only one that would have ran with it the way that he did. And
Mhm.
no, I don't think anybody could make it work the way he did because he just embraced it. He
Mhm.
Here's a guy who's a martial art, one of the toughest guys that you would meet, but then he was able to portray someone that people thought if they could get one good shot on him that they could knock him out.
Yeah.
But that's not really the truth. And we know that.
Yeah. And again, far further from the truth. He played the complete contrast of who he really is. Um, but what you're saying, Rob, it resonates. You've got such a mind for wrestling. Now you have actually trained wrestling. You worked for WWE in the Performance Center, right? You were a trainer for a while.
I did in the guest coaching at the
Okay.
Performance Center, but I had a class when I was on the road still in WWE for OVW that I trained on Wednesdays when I was home,
Okay.
and that was a lot of fun because they had TV on Wednesday, so they didn't have training. So the office had me train a lot of the guys that weren't going to be on TV that night because if they didn't, they were just sitting around doing nothing all day.
Right. Yeah. Now, have
But
you ever?
I had Beth Phoenix and Serena and Kelly and um, Crime Time, and his name was Boris at the time, but Santino Morella and
Yeah.
Cody Rhodes. I mean,
Yeah.
I had a good group of guys, and the way I would train them is in situations like uh, if we wanted to train in comebacks, we didn't have a whole match to have a comeback. I would be like, hey, the match has been 8 minutes long. He's been working your back, and we start out in a hold where
Hmm.
he's been on your back, and then come with a comeback from there. So
Hmm.
you don't so because when guys are in the ring, we only had one ring. So if you're in there for 10 or 15 minutes and you got 15 guys, by the time the last two get in the ring, they've been sitting there for an hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you had to more situational spots.
Hmm. Hmm.
I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun to watch the light bulb turn on in their heads and to
Yeah.
see the progress is, I coached basketball when I was younger at the JV level in New Albany. And the hardest part about coaching is that you want for them sometimes more than they want for themselves.
Yep. Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
but
Yep.
but it was a lot of fun. And like I said, watching progress, or if you say do this, this, and this, and then they might be reluctant, but then they do it and it goes great. I mean, it to see them come back and say, "Wow, that worked," and I say,
Yeah.
"Okay, see, that's you know." The other
What?
thing about coaching is if you tell someone to do something, it goes out and it doesn't work, you have to be able to own it and say, "Hey, I
Yeah.
thought that would have worked, but it didn't." And a
Hmm.
lot of people will not admit to it. "Oh, I told you to do it this way and you didn't do it." Man, I respect anybody that will look and say, I was wrong.
Hmm.
It's my fault.
Hmm. You were going to say something, Rico, there. I was going to.
I would say, you see, when my light bulb went off, I finally got it, it was so bright, Rob still wears sunglasses.
Yep.
They're not dirty.
No, but he's inspiring me. Rob, I mean, you've got such knowledge in that. Have you ever thought about just opening a straight up school and just running it full time?
Well, the hard part about a school for me is that I still live within, you know, 15, 20 minutes of OVW.
Oh yeah.
And I still think it's one of the best schools in the world.
Hmm.
It's not ran by Danny anymore, but it's still one of the best.
Yeah.
And so not only maybe not competing with them, but there's a big difference between being a wrestler or a coach and being a businessman.
Hmm. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Yep. Big difference. Yeah. So you got to get all that fit. But if OVW were to say to you, "Hey, come and train the guys," you'd be there and presumably in a heartbeat, right?
Uh, I mean, it's not the same OVW as it used to be, that's for
Yeah.
sure. But I
Yeah.
would definitely entertain the thought and sit down with them, and because it's a big commitment. Because I don't know if you've trained people. I know Jesse has. I'm sure that Rico has, but it's not like you only if you there say 2 hours a day for 5 days a week.
Hmm.
You're thinking about it for all day. I mean,
Yeah.
wrestling never turns off in your head.
Right.
Some of the
Yeah.
greatest ideas I've had, not just for me, but for other people, were in the tanning bed, at the gym, watching a movie. You watch a movie, and the whole time you're thinking about, oh, if I change this line just a little bit,
Yeah.
I could use it. Or this works for I've for other people. Like,
Yeah.
hey, I can't do this move, but this works for his character. And it consumes your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I agree with you there. I often get shouted at by my wife for thinking of ideas and whatnot. And when we're watching TV, same thing. I can kind of, with personal training, because I did personal training when I was younger, and I would find myself thinking about the guys I was working out, thinking about their diet, thinking about what I could change next, thinking about their progress. I suppose that in some way can be similar to what you're describing. So yeah, I could see it would be all consuming to run a school.
Because you're investing.
Yeah,
Because you're investing.
yeah,
When you train somebody, you invest in them. When you take up, you're investing, and it becomes personal,
yeah.
and with this character, the stylist character, just like Rob said, I conceived that whole character after about 2 weeks of thinking, thinking, thinking. Because as I said before, Vince, I was trained as a wrestler. Then they brought me in as a manager. I was on the phone to Bowen that afternoon. They're
Yeah,
like, "God, how do you manage?" I didn't know how to manage. I barely know how to wrestle.
yeah, yeah,
I'm going to go out and manage the tag champions. So
yeah,
Bowen helped, and then Billy Gunn said, "Kid, don't worry about it. I got you. Just do what I say."
yeah,
And you just tell Billy Gunn, no, he forgot more than I ever knew.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
but after about 2 weeks of thinking about it, I conceived the whole stylist character in that 30-minute 10 bed.
Hmm.
Once I committed and said I was going to do this
Yeah,
in 30 minutes, that's when I said, I'm not a stylist. Because like I said, Vince walked up, you're the stylist. And I said, well, what's that? A hairstylist? Foot style? He goes, flesh it out. And he turned around and walked away.
yeah,
So I'm like, stylist?
yeah.
And in 2 weeks, that's when I came up, image consultant.
Hmm.
That's from New York.
Yeah, yeah,
And as I said, Raven said, during a dark match, he goes, "What do you like being? A heel or a face?" And I said, "I like being a heel." He goes, "To do something about your face." because it was along my face. He goes, "You're too pretty. There's some sideburns." And he started that, but he wanted me to have the honky tonk sideburns.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not going to copy anybody. And then Brock already had the corporate sideburns. So I came out with the Wolverine look.
Yeah.
So
And that's
that's
it.
how that came about.
Yeah.
But like Rob said, he, Raven suggested something for me because he thought it would work with a heel character.
Yeah. Yeah.
Other guys helping other guys.
Yeah.
Now, have you guys touched on the fact that Rico invented, as far as wrestling goes, he invented the shush?
No, we
Nobody,
have not
I
touched on
haven't
that.
said that.
No, we haven't.
He in OVW, he would come out and go shush, and it was fantastic. I think you got it from Encino Man, but it
That's where
wasn't
I got it.
wrestling, and he brought it to wrestling,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it was in OVW. We all looked forward to him shushing people. So when I
Yeah.
saw it on the WWE, I was like, man, because he never got to do it in the WWE, but he did
I
it in
did it.
OVW.
I did it a couple times, but then I was on to other things. But yeah, OVW was the source for me
Shush. Yeah.
when I went to Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
I
that's
did
good.
it in 2014 or 15 in New Japan.
Yeah.
I was wrestling against the Bullet Club, which was Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. In
Yeah.
it was a heel versus heel match, but they were getting cheered for because we were more heels. We were more heelish, the guys I was with in NWA. And
Yeah.
I shushed the crowd, and they didn't know how to react to it. I think they just quieted. They just did it. And I was thinking to myself, that's your cue to get louder. But over there, they just went, okay, we'll shut up.
It's because you were too heelish. They were too afraid. No, man. No, it's fun. It's incredible. The character development, the ability to develop a character in wrestling, I think it's unmatched because in acting, you get to do it for a short period of time, 3 months, 6 months while you're on a movie set, or if you're doing a TV show, 6 months of the year. But in wrestling, you have to live that character, and it carries with you. I mean, look to this day. Rico, you're still styling. Rob, you're still the Iron Man to this day. Which, by the way, I want to give Rob another plug. So, Rob, that is a website of yours, www.robconway or conman.com.
It was at one time, but I'm not that savvy when it comes so it's not anymore. So I just the Rob Conway on social media is every social media is just the Rob Conway because somebody already had Rob Conway, so I had to go with the.
The.
But let me tell you a Rico story because I just love telling Rico stories.
All right, all right, all right.
Okay. So Rico, he's always built pretty good, and Rico's way like he was over the top as a person. So him being an over the top character is really not that big of a stretch. So me and him both used to go to this store called The Buckle in the mall. Remember that, Rico?
Yeah.
And when he wanted to try clothes on, he would just take his shirt off right in the middle of the store and try them on. And I came in there one day and he'd already been in there, and the guy working there who knew us said, "Yeah, Rico was in here earlier."
Yeah.
And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah." He said he asked us for our phone book, and he said he couldn't believe it that Rico ripped the phone book in half, and everybody thought it was amazing.
Yeah.
And he goes, "It was so cool." He goes, "But that was our only phone book."
Rico trying to show off, and you get him in trouble.
That's what I used to do with the power team.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when he won the heavyweight championship for me, so as a heel, when I was a heel in OVW, like I said, we were not accessible to the public. We only came out for our matches.
Okay.
We were the good guys had to go to everything. They had to go out during intermission. They had to kiss babies. I mean, it was they had to do all these functions, but the heels were protected.
Yeah.
They didn't get to know us on a personal level. We were, the worst of the worst. But he won the heavyweight championship for me, and the next day did like impromptu meet and greet at McDonald's in Jeffersonville and had a big crowd come around. He brought the belt in, and because they all knew he had a title match the night before,
Yeah.
and he wasn't going to say that he was going to win or not, but so the next day he comes in with the belt and had an impromptu meet and greet at McDonald's. You remember that, Rico?
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
man.
yeah, because there's a
And
lot
not
of
only
people like
that,
that. Yeah.
the reason I
Uh-oh.
say that he's one of the guys that loves having belts, well, first of all, you not in OVW, but so you make more money when you have a championship belt because you're going to be on all the shows. In OVW, anytime someone puts a championship on you, it's a stamp that they believe that you can carry the torch for the company and that you can make the company money.
Yeah.
So some people think, oh, it doesn't matter if you're the champion. It's a work. It's no, it does matter because it's like starring in a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of different parts, but when you're the star, that means that they are putting, you're going to put butts in seats and you're going to put, money in pockets.
Yep.
So, but Rico took the belts and he would clean them and take them apart and make them look perfect. Whereas most of us, like we just didn't, I'm going to say we didn't take that pride, but he took a lot of pride in the presentation, even at the OVW level.
Yeah.
And I mean, he can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that nobody ever had a belt that was cleaner or more well kept than the ones that Rico would get.
Rico?
Yeah, well, I carried that to when Rikishi and I carried the old WWF World Tag titles. We were on the road, and I looked at this belt, and it was so beat up, and the paint and everything. So I bought all the paint, and I did my belt, got it, and we were at the hotel, and I knocked on Rikishi's door. He answered. I said, "Let me see your belt, the tag belt." So he comes to the door and goes, "Here." I said, "Okay, here, take this one." And he looks at it, he goes, "What'd you do?" I said, "Looks better, don't it?"
Yeah.
He shook his head and just closed the door. And then I took that belt,
Yeah.
polished it up, painted it,
Yeah.
and it looked,
Yeah.
because you're the champion. I mean, if you believe it, they believe it.
Yeah. But there's something to be
Yeah.
said about that. I feel like I'm sitting in the presence of two gentlemen that are the same. And I think the same way too. You put your best foot forward. You do your best job. For Rico and I, you work as if you're working for the Lord. You do not, and that's the way to be as a champion. We should, because you are the example to the others coming up beneath you. Not beneath you. That's a horrible way of saying it, but you know what I mean.
The up and comers.
The up and comers. You got to lead by example, and
Example. Yeah.
that's exactly what the two of you have done.
Don't be do as I say, not as I do person.
Hmm.
You're going to walk the walk. If you're going to talk the talk, you walk the walk.
Hmm.
And like Rob was saying earlier, a lot of these guys that have the passion for the business, they don't put in the work to get there. They don't go to the gym. They don't eat right. They're not committed. They don't study hard enough. They don't watch reviews of their matches or other matches. Like they'll get, that's what I did a lot of reviewing on.
Or listen
You
to,
know?
or let us listen to criticism.
Yes, yeah, but take it as constructive.
Yeah, yeah,
Don't
yeah,
get don't get
yeah,
hurt feelings.
yeah.
Like I said, that's how I felt with all of Danny's guys. When they were telling me something, it was to benefit me,
Hmm.
not to drag me in the dirt or take away my confidence. They were
Hmm.
trying to make me better, and
Yeah.
they did. In what, barely 2 years, I went from 12 matches, spent time, and 5 months of that was with a torn quad.
Hmm.
So it was less than 2 years. His guys taught me enough to get on the main roster.
Hmm.
Yeah, and he was on there before me, Nick, Doug, or Damager.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we were not like upset about it. Back then, it was we were happy that one of our guys was making it
Hmm.
because then it helps us all.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Not only that, but at some point the guys move up and then they get in a position where they can put a word in for you should never be jealous of anybody in wrestling, because especially if they're your friend, because who doesn't want to work with their friends? So
Right.
if you get an opportunity, especially it, I mean, you want them to be really good at wrestling, but I will wrestle someone that's easy to work with, that is a joy to be around, that's not going to hurt me, before I would wrestle someone and everybody they think, man, this guy's great, but he's, you know, he's kind of a problem and backstage and he's hard to work with. Man, I don't want that. That's too much stress. I just want
Hmm.
to, we, you know, if you if you have the approach, if me and Rico wrestle each other, and I thought in my head, I'm going to make Rico look as good as possible, and he has in his head, he's going to make me look as good as possible. Now we're dancing out there, and it's going to be fantastic. But if you're
Yeah.
selfish, it and if he's not trying to make me look good, and I'm trying to make myself look good, it's just not going to happen. We have to get along and give and take. And
Hmm.
to me,
Yeah,
that's fun.
Yeah.
That's when you come back and you hug each other and you say, "Man, that was fun." And you think, "Man, I wish we could do that every night."
Yeah.
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 I mean, Charlie and I, when we were tagging, we went up against uh, the Bashams, Damager and Doug. That's from the old school, and we've had
Hmm.
great matches because we
Yeah.
knew each other, and it's just so less stressful. No
Hmm.
stress. You're just out there, and each one of you are trying to make the other one look better than the other. Each trying to do the same thing, and it makes for a heck of a match. I've had I have some of them saved. I have two that were on Velocity. One was on Heat, one was on Velocity, and they were just great matches. They just flowed
Hmm.
everything, and it's great when guys get together like that and put out a product like that.
Hmm.
Benefits all the fans, and it's easy.
Yeah. Speaking of that, because you touched on the subject there. So, scripting a match versus calling it on the fly. Now, I know that this is becoming common practice now where they're calling the matches step for step for step for step. Now, I know that from Rico back in the early 2000s, it wasn't that way. You guys called it on the fly. So, Rob, what are your thoughts? Scripting an entire match beat for beat or calling it on the fly? Which is better?
It's evolved. Like when I've gone down to NXT and I've got to help produce matches live on the show where you got the headset. So the producers help put the matches together. And so they have to know just about everything you're going to do,
Mm,
because if something goes wrong, or the the whoever's in charge is going to immediately look over at the producer while
mm,
he's on the headset, and he's going to go, well, they didn't tell me they were going to do that. You know
mm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And nobody, as Rico be able to let you know, some of the coolest stuff that people do, they just did it.
Yeah.
They didn't ask, because if you ask, and nobody wants to be the one to say yes, do it, and then it suck.
Hmm. Hmm.
So you pretty much, and like even in NXT, I believe they have 7 cameras,
Okay.
and you have to know where if you're going to go to the top rope, they need to know which one you're going to,
Hmm.
because what's going to get the best shot. And now you learn how to call a match, and you learn how to work in live events. That's what we did. We would still put stuff together for TV, but
Hmm.
like during the heat part of the match, it was like, hey, I might do this, this, and this, but we'll feel it out there. But the comeback is
Hmm.
something that usually was predetermined, because you can't go fast enough on the fly. And now people are looking for you to talk. You have to be really good at when, like I talk a lot out there, and I've only heard myself talk one time. I watched a match back on Raw, and I had it turned up really high,
Hmm.
and I reached to tag Sylvan, and I said home,
Okay.
because and I was disappointed in myself that they would be able to hear that. But
Yeah.
there's when to talk and how to do it without anybody seeing it. But
Hmm.
now that it's so sports entertainment now
Hmm.
that everything is down to the T.
Hmm.
And then, but you learn to work so that, one, if something goes wrong, you can cover it.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And as long as nobody notices it, then that's fantastic. The other thing is we um the time cues. So if
Hmm.
you have a 6 minute match planned out and then you're getting ready to go home and they say, hey, you got 3 more minutes, you have to be able to adjust
Hmm.
and go, okay. You can't just go, well, that's not, you can't stop the match and look at the ref and say, well, we're supposed to go home now. This is what we have. So I guess it would be similar to a house show is like doing live theater on a stage.
Okay.
A television match is like doing a, live, it's a live performance. It's on television and it has to go as planned. So
Okay.
that's what, unless I don't know anybody that I've ever been associated with that doesn't love doing live performances at live events way more than TV. They're
Hmm.
totally different.
Hmm.
You,
Yes.
they're really not even the same. They're like soccer and American football. They're completely different.
Right.
They're called the same thing, but a live event is like, hey guys, you got like 15 to 20 minutes.
Hmm.
Here's what we want it to end. And then you get to go out there and have fun and mess around with the crowd because you're only there to entertain the people that bought a ticket
Right.
Yep.
Right.
because they're not going to leave and they're not going to change the channel.
Hmm.
But television, you do not care about the people in the audience.
Hmm.
There's 20,000 people there, but there's 4 million watching at home.
Right.
So you're directing it. If the camera doesn't pick it up, did it even happen? So it's very important that you're working to the cameras
Hmm.
because if you go to a live event, I mean, sometimes you'll be like, I can't, when we were in OVW, they might not remember the moves you did, but they know that you told somebody to shut up or this happened,
Right.
and that's entertaining. But
Yeah.
on television, the matches have to be fast enough because people will turn the channel if you're in a hold too long.
Yeah.
Because they might, they'll get up and, go do. That's what one of the things on the independent level that I do not like is when they advertise that I'm going to have like an Iron Man match, even though you'd think I'd like it, but they know that it's not going to be over for 30 minutes or an hour, so they can
Hmm.
get up and go get popcorn. It's not going to end.
Yeah.
I don't mind going 30 minutes or whatever, but I don't want people to know when the match is going to end, so they have to, 1-2 kick out. Oh, not, oh, if he gets beat, he's still got 20 more minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so that things like that. But the live events are so much fun because you plan out some things, but then you listen to what the people are buying,
Hmm.
and then
Hmm.
you give them, what they want, and then you take it away and you give it. It's just like being a maestro, and you're just getting them to do what you want them to do. Whereas TV, you have to almost predict what they want and
Yeah.
go out there and sometimes you hit a home run and sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
But you need to be good enough and have the agent there and they can be like, well, we're in this town and they're going to react to this. But plus the agents or producers know what the office wants.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
And so when you come back and say, here's what we got planned, they also know, well, in the main event, they're going to do something similar to that. So don't do it.
Right.
Don't fight outside the ring because the next match is a street fight. They're going to be outside the ring the whole time. So you you have to do the best you can do with the limitations they put on you.
Hmm.
So for instance, and I'm not trying to be long-winded, me and Rico could go out and have what we would consider to be just an okay match,
Hmm.
but it was designed to be that way. That's what they wanted
Yeah.
because the next match is going to be, sometimes they don't want all the attention on this match.
Yeah.
They just had Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker, and they need a match that brings people. It's a fun match, and then the next match is going to be more blood and guts. It's going to
Got
be,
it.
Triple H versus, Angle or something.
Yeah.
And they need this, they need Rico to come out and give the people some entertainment that's not punch, kick, stomp, and blood. And so you
I
wrestlers Wrestlers
good.
love to have boundaries. This is what we want, and this is how, obviously we'd want to have bigger boundaries, but you can have a 5-star match that
Hmm.
doesn't look like it's that great because you did the best you could do with what they wanted from you.
Got it. You know what? And Rico, before you jump in, I just want to say thank you, Rob, for that, because I really think there's a lot of our audiences that are pro wrestlers in training are going to appreciate that. That is the best way I've heard it put in a fairly short period of time. Thank you, Rob, for outlining that. Yeah, it's like, your TVs, your electric guitar, and then your bass guitar would be the live events or the independent circuit. The two different mediums, two different ways of expressing the content. Rico, you were going to say something?
Well, right along those lines, I did more semi-main events as the Adrian Street character than I ever did as a stylist, is just because of what Rob said.
Hmm.
Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker, and the other one's Eddie Guerrero and JBL.
Yeah,
They don't want to go right into that. They want the people to breathe, laugh a little,
yeah,
entertained. So guess who they brought out?
yeah, yep, yep,
Ta-da! And then they got to see the horsey ride and the pinching of the cheeks,
yeah, yeah,
so it let them breathe a little bit to get into the main event.
yeah, yeah,
So what Rob said is absolutely true.
yeah,
I saw more semi-main event time, and the higher you are on the card, the more you get paid
yeah.
at a
That's
pay-per-view.
it's incredible. Well, I tell you what, gentlemen, if there was a show put on by Rob Conway and Rico Constantino, that show would be a headliner. That's for darn sure. Right there,
We
Rob,
would entertain them.
absolutely. Let's see if we can raise the budget for that, viewers. Where you can donate on Patreon, right? If you want
Yeah.
to see Rob Conway and Rico Constantino put on a show, drop us some comments, buy us a cup of coffee on the Patreon, link in the description of the video. You know the rest. Um, Rob, one last question. I don't know if you ever worked through the holiday season over Christmas or Thanksgiving. Did you when you were on the road?
In WWE, we got the week of Christmas off,
Okay.
but all the other holidays, for the most part, you were either working them or you were traveling on that day to go to Raw or a pay-per-view.
Okay.
In the OVW, leading up to getting to WWE, the biggest nights of the year used to be Thanksgiving and Christmas
Hmm.
because there was nothing to do. That's why the movies would those were the biggest box
Box
office
office
days
records.
was Thanksgiving and Christmas because everything was closed
Hmm.
after people ate their food. They watched football, but other than that, there was nothing to do. I loved to wrestle on those days. It was
Okay.
packed. Even we don't have anything to do either after
Right.
you hang out with your family and eat. It's like
Yeah.
5 o'clock. It's like, okay, now what?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, so
Yeah.
even now, like independent shows would be doing themselves a disservice if they didn't have it that night. Like people are looking for something to do, and all their families in town, they can go as a family.
Yeah.
It's depending on the what kind of promotion it is and what they're delivering to the audience. I mean, family friendly. It doesn't have to be completely, you know, PG, and
Mhm.
it certainly shouldn't be rated X. I mean, this is still somewhat athletic
Yeah.
performance. But yeah, I think that the holidays are a great time. People are especially Christmas. People got Christmas money. They need to come buy a Rico shirt. They need to buy a Rico belt buckle.
Yep.
You got to make America great again. It's
Uh,
not a plug for anything other than Rico on that.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, you gotta you know, it's fun. It's
Yeah.
like it was a tradition in independent wrestling or when it was territories
Mhm.
to have big shows on holidays.
Yeah. So pretty much the holidays for you, if you got to wrestle and perform, that was your Thanksgiving treat. That was a treat for you. Yeah.
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 And now it wouldn't be because I'm older and
Right.
I want to be at home, you know,
Yeah.
watching TV and in bed by 9 o'clock if at all possible.
Wow. What about you, Rico, though? What would you, if you were, was it a treat for you to do a Thanksgiving if you were working Thanksgiving back then?
Oh yeah, I was at OVW. I think didn't we do Christmas Chaos?
Yeah.
Yeah, Thanksgiving it was some other place. Yeah,
When
I did.
Rico lived here, there
Yeah.
was nothing else for him to do.
No,
There you go.
I lived
He
in Las
lived in
Vegas.
he
I was,
rented a room with people he didn't even know. He
Yeah.
just was one, he was just a sponge for wrestling. That's the thing about the developmental system now. When it's in a town where there's more activities to do, there's more things to stray people away from just concentrating on, getting better in their development.
Yeah. Yeah. You
We
got
didn't have much to do around here.
to. Yeah.
look, I had my impromptu at McDonald's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you get in trouble for that, Rico, at all?
No, it was
Okay.
people
Oh, we
that,
loved it.
because I went to that McDonald's because I knew an elderly couple there, and I used to sit and have breakfast with them before I went to OVW.
That's nice.
And they liked wrestling. In fact, they made the first ever Rico shirt that I ever had printed.
Wow.
Yeah. It was me with the black and yellow tights with my American Gladiator belt, and me standing in the second rope doing this.
Yeah.
And the guy had them printed for me.
Yeah.
And him and his wife used to come to McDonald's, and I used to just visit with them
Yeah.
and just talk about everything.
That's
We
And
were
nice.
people would
local
come in.
celebrities here. We were on TV here for years.
Yeah.
But
So,
you kind of got used to being recognized, and you learn how to deal with that. And you're not a when you by the time you get to WWE and you're getting recognized, it's not a shock.
yeah.
You know, you're not suddenly like, oh, I'm somebody. You already felt like you were somebody when you started in OVW.
That's a nice way to break you in. A nice way, because a
Yeah.
lot of the guys could, yeah, a lot of the guys, if they go from here to here very quickly, could go to their heads. That was a good way to break in like that. Um, Rob, I think, there's so much more to cover. We've gone quite a while today, but Rob, we'd love to have you back on. We're getting Renee's joining us next week on the
Great.
show. We should do a La Resistance reunion special, Rico. What do you think?
Uh, hey,
Yeah, I think if you're up for it, Rob, we'd love to have you back on occasion because I think you're a wealth of knowledge, especially to some of, like I said, to our audience that are wrestlers in training, even anybody who's doing anything in life. They could learn from some of the ways that you've taught. Very inspiring, encouraging story, and I want to thank you, Rob, for joining us today. We greatly appreciated that.
Oh, I appreciate you. Hopefully you could. I can tell you can tell a different. Me and you had talked before,
Yep.
but then with Rico here, how much we just, your personality comes out because he's, infectious.
Yes.
And I don't know anybody that doesn't like Rico. I mean, he was the first developmental guy to come to OVW. He was embraced with open arms. We were, we were all excited to have somebody new and super athletic to work with,
Yeah.
because it's just, if somebody has a great attitude and they're athletic, I mean, hey, I want a piece of that. Let's have some fun out there
Yeah.
together.
Yeah. No, he's been an inspiration to me, Rob. Before when I first started this channel at the beginning of this year, I just met Rico through Jesse Hernandez. So I'm working with Jesse now in EWF. Rico knows a lot about that, don't you, Rico? But anyway, we started working together, and yeah, he's been a great inspiration to me personally and professionally. An infectious personality, a wealth of knowledge, and an inspiration. But yeah, again, the same. Rob. I interviewed Rob way back in the summer. I was earlier along on my walk in doing this, so now I'd like to feel that I've loosened up quite a bit on the old podcast here. So, but it takes a while. You're talking to a camera vicariously then through our fans, of course.
yeah.
But it takes a little bit of time. So, but thank you, Rob, for joining us today. One last announcement because I forgot to make it at the beginning of the show, Rico. Coming across your screens right now are public speaking engagements. That's right. The entire team that you see across the screen right now, Paul Roma, Mario Mancini, Rico Constantino, myself, Emir, and Chris Masters. We're all available now for public speaking engagements. If you're interested, use the email address in the description of this video and we will work out details. But for now, gentlemen, what a tremendous
I
episode.
I want to thank Rob too, because I've been saying it for years. That I wouldn't have been as successful as I was in WWE if it wasn't for the guys in OVW. And right now, there's the proof. He gave you all the proof right here on this podcast with his knowledge and his experience. I couldn't help but become a success because of OVW. See, it's right here, live in color.
Yep.
So thank you, Rob, for way back then, for what you did for me, and thank you for coming on the show.
No, I appreciate it. Can I say one last thing?
Yep.
I believe that the guys from OVW who have been really successful, that we should all try to publicize the fact that I think that Nightmare Danny Davis should be in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Ah, yeah. Yeah.
I cannot think of somebody more deserving that's not in the Hall of Fame right now.
Very true. Very true.
He created enough of their superstars, and that ruthless aggression, he was a major factor in ruthless aggression. Major
because we can talk about the things that we've done for each other, but none of it would have happened without Danny Davis.
And you're right. You make
the Nightmare Danny Davis.
The Nightmare
Danny Davis. Yes.
You're right, because the ruthless aggression era is right up there with the golden era. There's never been two eras that were as good as that. I mean, people argue with
there's no telling how many guys would have quit wrestling if they, at some point, everybody has a hard time in developmental, and they probably went to Danny and had a heart-to-heart talk with him, and he talked to them like a mentor, a coach, just someone who they could, that whatever situation they'd been in, he'd been in it because he'd been in it a long time. And a lot of people owe their career, or a lot of their career, to the Nightmare Danny Davis. He didn't do all the hard work. We put in the hard work, but he gave us a lot of knowledge, and he was the right person at the right time that trained, the ruthless aggression era.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So just wanted to put that out there. I think that behind the scenes more than he ever was. He was kind of behind the scenes, like people call him Yoda, but he is the most deserving person that I know that's not in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Okay. Well,
I second that. I agree. Throw it out there. We'll give it a fastball on this.
Yep.
There you go.
Yep. We'll make sure we mention it today. We'll make sure we mention it again tomorrow on the other show, on our other show, Power and Glory tomorrow. But ladies and gentlemen, for this week, this has been our special guest, Rob the Iron Man Conway, who will be back very soon. In fact,
give me the double.
Yeah, go on the double. There it is.
Just look at me.
That's it. That's the whole line right there. But thank you so much, Rob. We'll be in contact with you again, Rob, because I'd definitely love for you to come on as a group on our other show with Paul Roma and some of the other guys. Yeah, Chris Masters. I'm sure you remember Chris from WWE.
I met Paul and Mario at an event about 3 years ago, and they were a pleasure to be around.
Yeah. Wonderful guys, man. Yeah, so make sure I'll be in contact with you about that, and I'll bring you on, and we'll get together and we'll do another show. But ladies, actually, stay on the line, Rob. Stay on the line, Rico. Ladies and gentlemen, until next week, make sure you lay the smack down on that subscribe button, hit the likes, share with your friends and family. We greatly appreciate it, and we will see you next week on Stylin'.